Good morning, everyone. How are you? Hope you're all good. My name is Oniba. Work with Uganda Consumption Foundation. We are here, you are seeing, we are three in front. We have got someone from Uganda WildAid Authority, and our presentation is kind of tied together. Here with Mas Robertson, also from Uganda Consumption Foundation, and Kirabo, who is a community conservation WildAid working in Action for National Park. And me, basically, I also work in that area.
Action Falls National Park is the largest national park in Uganda, and our biggest conflict area is on the northern. Is on the northern area. It's on the northern area and this part of the wildlife reserve. So the intervention that we are going to explain is currently being demonstrated in this area, just above the community. This particular area at one point was under a political insurgency, and the majority of the people had been evacuated or were living in camps, and much of the open grasslands had become grazing lands for the elephants. This part here was once a wildlife reserve, and this was degazetted in 1972 and given back to the local communities. But initially it had been an escape route for wildlife that was coming from the national park to allow, it was like a migratory route up to Sudan in the Mule National Park. But now all that part has been occupied by communities, and we are trying to find lasting solutions to what can we do to prevent the settled-in communities from suffering from the crop raiding. The other problem we are grappling with is that that particular zone of late has experienced a big number of big farming communities that have introduced a series of palatable crops ranging from maize, rice, sorghum, and all are looking for lasting solutions. And yet, when you look at the massive interventions that are being experimented by the rest of the groups, have not yet been introduced in this particular area because it's still a very vast area. Much of the work has been done on this stretch. So we are still looking for options of what to do in this particular area. And before we introduce the repellent, one of the proposed interventions is the introduction of the conservancy, since originally the area was a migratory route for wildlife, and within that particular area, because after the change, there's history of cattle ranching in that area, and currently we are having a series of lodges mushrooming in that particular corner of the reserve. So possibly, you don't go ahead. Yes, I'm there. Okay. So this particular photograph explains part of what we are undergoing. This is a very big farm of rice introduced by the Ministry of Agriculture. We're trying to experiment the different types of rice that can be demonstrated in the communities of Latoro. and we are specifically drawing only onto one sub-county as a study area. From the month of December, January, February is a dry season in Murchison Falls National Park, and towards the month of April, May, the elephants are much more in the park feasting on the palm trees. The fruits at their maturity and in plenty, and by the month of May, the crop fields are now at a maturity stage and ready for harvesting. So the transition, when by the beginning of May, the fruits are now finished in the national park, and the crops in the field are at a maturity stage and ready for harvesting. So we experienced a surge of elephant crop raiding in the month of late May and into the month of June, July, and August. We are taking a sample of what happens in that particular sub-county of Gotafoyo sub-county. These are the number of incidences in 2016 and 2017. So the lighter color is 2016, the darker color is 2017. Where you're seeing no damage caused means that the animals have strayed out into the communities, but there's been a quick response by either the scouts or the rangers to deter the animals from destroying the crops. While the one which shows damages and losses, those are the ones we've missed, or the response came in, the report came in when the animals are already in the field. We have a challenge that when the elephants go out into the Swallow Limb Reserve, by the time you realize that they are in the crop field, they've accessed the crop fields from the backside, far away from the community areas. So by the time the report comes, the damage is already done. So in 2016, it's a bit higher than 2017, in that we've tried a series of interventions with the scouts to try and respond in time, but still the problem is still high.
Thanks, Gertrude. So I think it's just also important to note here that these are only the reported incidents, and these are only the ones that were reported to the Wildlife Authority. So this is data from Gertrude's team. So, what is our solution? We are working through groups of human-wildlife conflict scouts who were trained by Uganda Wildlife Authority with funding from African Wildlife Foundation. And they were already, when we started working with them, they were conducting routine elephant patrols. They were using noisemakers, including bangers, which imitate a gunshot sound. And they were growing chili in some areas. And we've been running a program which Ernest has been in charge of in the field. And what we have done with the groups is firstly to establish savings and loans associations with them, which is a really key tool we've found in a number of areas, including human-wildlife conflict and livelihoods projects, to keep groups together, to keep them meeting regularly, to keep them talking to each other, and is a really good way of mitigating conflict. We also have our scouts collecting crop raiding data, so to supplement the data that Gertrude's team's collecting. We gave them first aid training, which was something they specifically asked for, because when they go out on their routine patrols, they often, I don't know, Ernest, maybe you can fill us in, but they maybe step on sticks or fall over, or in the act of running away from elephants or chasing elephants away, they're getting minor injuries. We're about to establish beehive fences in some areas, which is why you'll have seen us both frantically taking down notes over the last day or so. And can we kill that light? I'm going to show you a video of the repellent. So this is the main feature of our presentation today. Thanks, Andy.
We are here as community scouts with 35 members. What we basically do, we make organic repellents. And this organic repellent is a mixture of neem leaves, the cow dung, the garlic, chili powder, the eggs, the ginger.
By students at a local secondary school in a nearby village who worked in conjunction with local farmers to develop the recipe. They then contacted the Wildlife Authority and Gertrude's team, and they made a couple of tweaks to the recipe. They added chili and ginger, which it's known that elephants are not big fans of. We really like this solution because it's community owned. They came up with it, and they're invested in its success. It's effective and it's really cheap. So you'll have seen Ernest this morning frantically working out the maths as he was sat outside. It's about, I hope we're correct, $35 per acre, which is 40 litres of solution, if it's sprayed, or about half that, so $17.50, if you put it on a fence line. As Gertrude mentioned, one of the reasons why we're not looking at more permanent interventions in this area, like trenches or fences, is because the area is earmarked for a conservancy. So we're looking at sort of short-term guards for farms. Another benefit is that the waste solids from this cooking process can be used to make chili bricks. So what we've been doing, or what Ernest has been doing rather, is conducting trials. As you've just heard, we've been trying 2 different methods. The fence line is cheaper, it needs replenishing less frequently. We have been using the bottles with no lid on, but I think next time we'll put the lid on and maybe make some holes in the bottle so that it is less prone to being diluted by rain. Obviously the spraying needs reapplying after rain, and it's been applied according to the season, so it's not applied year round, it's just when the crops are reaching that mature stage. Over to Ernest to talk about the impact, some of the things that the community are saying.
Basically, when we went into operation in that area, Uganda Wildlife, when we came into operation in that area, it is the northern part of Maxon Fall National Park, and we found Uganda Wildlife Authority had really trained a group of volunteers who call themselves community scout. And the way this scout works in that side, it's not like I've been hearing testimonies, couple from organizations here who are working with warriors and the scouts. It's quite different from that side, in such a way that the scout in that area, normally they schedule time, like once a week or twice a week, to move out of the community land where there are settlement. They move, because it's an area which has been degazetted, it was permanently reserved. So the elephant, they move from the national park into the former reserve, and they stay there, and that's where they launch their attack to the community land. So now what they do, this group of scouts, they move out of the settlement, they go into those forested areas to hide the elephant away from those forested areas back to the park. So not only that, even they are like on alert 24/7, because anytime you may have missed an elephant in the forest, and you will still come in the community land. So that's how they work in that area. So these guys have been trained. So now what we're trying to do with them is to motivate them so that they continue in their work of helping the vulnerable woman, the vulnerable man in the community who have tilted, maybe after tilting your land and you wait, you want to harvest your crops, and within a switch of light, the elephant comes and destroys that, and it clearly impoverishes the community. So now what we try to do, since these are the guys who are trying to help the community, they are guarding the community crops, they are herding elephant away from the community, we support them with this equipment, and also we use them to make these organic repellent solutions, which had been developed by Uganda Wildlife Authority, but first we are taking it on a massive production. And we are making them to own the organic repellent solution that we make with them by supporting them. We started supporting them in non-palatable crops because most of the ingredients, currently we are outsourcing it from out, but now we want them. Okay, we are outsourcing it from out, but now we are making them to plant it, grow it within, so that the requirements that are really needed for the organic repellent, because these are things which can be grown and you can produce it locally. So now we support them on that, and when you move in the community, clearly you can see that after maybe someone has been tilting a land for 4 years, 5 years, and they don't get much impact, or they don't harvest much out of their crops. But after applying this organic repellent, after using the organic repellent, someone you can see the joy that, of course, now maybe after suffering for so many years, at last I can finally harvest something out of my garden. You can look at these are some of the quotes that we have been trying to ask from the community. How do they feel about the organic repellent?
So what next? More trials. This was very much a sort of a pilot, working with the scouts in this area and finding out what ideas they had towards solving their own problems with crop raiding. So we plan to make more repellent, conduct more trials. Some of the things we'll be looking at will be how long the elephants will stay away from an area after 1, 2, 3, etc. applications. What long-term impact does that have on the elephant movements and behaviours in the area? What other animals does it have an impact on? And we thought we would take this opportunity to open it up to the room, and maybe you can tell us what other things we should be measuring. And we need a lot more rigorous data collection. You'll probably notice there's only one graph in our presentation as opposed to tens in other people's. It's something we've recognised that we need to be a lot more stringent on to be able to prove the effectiveness of this. So in conjunction with further trials, we will be, as Ernest just alluded to, we'll be getting the farmers to grow the ingredients. What we have been doing is we've been buying chili, garlic, ginger, anything else? From outside of the local community to use to make the repellent, but these are all things that will grow in the local area. There's been some success already with growing chili, a little bit with growing ginger, and as an aside, you'll see these guys are all standing with bags of sunflower seeds. Someone mentioned it yesterday. We've also trialled the sunflower seeds and the sesame seeds. So the long-term aim is to get the farmers to grow the ingredients. Obviously, if it goes fantastically well and they change their culture away from subsistence farming, from growing their own food to growing these as cash crops, great, because they won't have the problem of the elephants. But if not, they can grow the ingredients on a smaller scale and continue to protect their crops. Hopefully, assuming all the trials go well, continue to protect their crops using the repellent. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks very much to UWA and UCF. And somebody has a hand up.
Is it switched on? No.
Yes, sir.
First and foremost, thank you very much for the new concoction. For sure, we'll try it because it seems it should be very smelly.
Very smelly.
Yeah. I just want to understand something from the histograms that you put in. There are a number of incidences, crop damage, yes, understandable. Incidences that didn't have crop damage, that are understandable. But I didn't understand the no incidences. What are those numbers? What are days? Or, because there are no incidences, what did you record?
Those are reported incidences, reported cases of wildlife in the community area.
Reported, okay. So reports of no incidences.
Number of
It is
incidents.
number of incidences that are reported to us
Okay.
from the community.
Okay.
It's not no incidences, it's number of incidences.
Okay.
My question is just one of curiosity about your concoction. And maybe a food scientist can answer it, but why the inclusion of the eggs?
We are looking at, remember, the eggs have that component of sulfur in them. We are looking at whatever can build up that stench that can draw the elephants away from the communities. Whatever, you're looking at garlic, eggs, what can build up that sulfur smell?
So is it rotten eggs?
Yeah.
You can use rotten eggs, you can use fresh eggs.
Yeah. Yeah, it's left to ferment for how long, Ernest?
If
2 weeks?
It depends.
If it's a bigger volume, then it has to stay for 2 weeks. But if you make it in a 20-liter jerrycan of those 1 week, it's ready for spray.
So you ferment and then boil?
No, you boil and then ferment.
You
Yeah.
first boil all
You're,
those
you're
ones.
boiling the chilies, the garlic, and
Ginger, neem leaves.
neem leaves.
It's delicious until you
The
get to the
ginger.
cow dung.
And then you mix the cow dung, the eggs with the cow dung. You don't boil the eggs.
Okay, okay.
You only add the eggs and the cow dung after you put it on fire. Then you do your mixture and then
You filter it, then after
Filter it,
filtering, then you add the cooking oil.
I'm just intrigued. Does the smell like permeate people's homes? Does it make living unpleasant?
It is really quite foul. Does it permeate people's homes?
they are very far away from the farm.
But I mean in James's farm.
That's what we do is, because the smell is really terrible, so what we do with the guys who make it is, we make them wear mouth mask, and even they use hand glove for when you're preparing, so that you, and even when you are doing the application, so that it doesn't get
Does the smell travel far? Like, if this is a small